Batas Lansangan. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel where we bring the most iconic action stories to life. Today we are diving into a true movie story, Batas Lansangan. Batas Lansangan, translation Law of the Street, is a 2002 Philippine action film directed by Fernando Poe Jr. under the moniker Ronaldo Reyes. The film stars Poe in the title role, Dina Bonnevie, and Roy Vincent. Fernando Poe Jr., born Ronald Allen Kelly Poe, August 20, 1939 to December 14, 2004, was a Filipino actor, director, and screenwriter. Nickname, The King, and often referred to by his initials FPJ, he has been described as a cultural icon, having dominated the Philippine box office from the 1960s to 1990s through his leading roles in action films. For his career that spanned nearly 5 decades, he has received numerous honors including the Order of National Artists of the Philippines in 2006 and the CCP Centennial Honors for the Arts in 1999. Poe appeared in around 300 films from 1955 to 2003, and 1. Poe entered the film industry as a stuntman following the death of his father, actor Fernando Poe Sr., and made his film debut in 1955 with Hanap and I Palaris, a sequel to a film that starred his father. His breakout came in the 1956 film Low Waist Gang and went on to star in action films that portrayed him as the champion and defender of the poor and oppressed. 6. His notable films include Only the Brave Know How, 1965, Lino Brocas Santiago. 1970, Celso Ad. Castillo's Asadillo, 1971, Batola sa Buhangan, 1976, Dirigen Si Todo y Bato, 1979, Eddie Romero's Adila, 1980, his self-directed On Ponde, 1980, and its sequels, Roman Rapido and The Sang Bala Kaulan. Both 1983, the 1986 films Ayo ang Tanda, Kanya ang Kavita, Muslim.357, and That ang Kriapo, Kate Kontin Paktian, 1990, Ang Provinciano, 1996, Hisasumban Kita Sa Tadi Ko, 1999, and Ang Dalapesa, 2000. 7. Poe's accolades include 5 FAMAS Awards for Best Actor, and 2, the joint record, and 3, that inducted him into the FAMAS Hall of Fame in 1988. He also won Best Director for his films on Padrino, 1984, and Kate Butas in Karyam, Papasikan Ko, 1995. 8. In 2004, FAMAS posthumously granted him the Natatanging Alagating Shining Award. Poe was also posthumously declared a National Artist of the Philippines in 2006, accepted by his family in 2012. 9. Poe ran for President of the Philippines in the 2004 election. He lost to the incumbent Gloria Macapagal Arroyo by just over 1 million votes, 3.48%, the closest margin by percentage between the winner and runner-up in the history of Philippine presidential elections. 7 months after the election, Poe died of a stroke. Hundreds of thousands attended his wake and funeral. 11. Poe was married to actress Susan Rosas, who played his on-screen love interest in 17 films. 3. He is the father of Senator Grace Poe and actress Lovie Poe. Ronald Allen Kelly Poe was the son of Filipino actor and director Fernando Poe Sr., born Alan Fernando Poe y Reyes, 1916 to 1951, from San Carlos, Pangasinan, and Elizabeth Bessie Kelly, 1918 to 1999. He was born in Manila on August 20, 1939. He was known as Ronnie to his family. His parents, at the time of his birth, were not legally married until 1940. In 2004, Poe's political opponents tried to derail his bid for the 2004 Philippine presidency when they sought to disqualify him as an illegitimate son of a non-Filipino mother. He was the second among 6 siblings, including Andy, born Fernando Poe Jr., 1943 to 1995, 12, whose given name was used by Poe as his own professional name to bank on the popularity of his father, who was a top actor in his time. Conrad Poe was Poe's half-brother, the illegitimate son of Fernando Poe Sr. and actress Patricia Maharas. The original spelling of the family surname was Poe, from his paternal grandfather, playwright Lorenzo Poe, a Catalan migrant from Majorca, Spain, who ventured into mining and business in the Philippines. In 1953, Poe finished his primary education at San Beda College. For high school, he attended San Sebastian College. He continued his education at Mapua Institute of Technology and University of the East and took the course Theater Arts. When his father died from rabies at age 34, Poe became the family's breadwinner. In order to support his family, he dropped out of the University of the East during his sophomore year. Poe dropped out of college to work in the Philippine film industry as a messenger boy, and was given acting roles in subsequent years. 14, starting as a stuntman for Everlasting Pictures, he was given a starring role in the film Anak Ni Palaris, Son of Palaris, at the age of 14. The film, however, was not a big hit. In 1956, the film Low Waist Gang made him popular, 14, and the film was such a hit that low-waist pants became a fad. Also known as FPJ from his initials, Poe acted in a number of films which depicted him as the champion of the poor and downtrodden. He also directed films under the pseudonyms Dlanner and Romualdo Reyes. Reyes originated from the surname of his paternal grandmother, Martha. He established FPJ Productions in 1961 and later organized other film companies. In 1963, he testified against criminal gangs, known as the Big Four, who extorted money from the film industry. In 1965, he shared the lead in The Ravagers. In the Philippines, this is titled Only the Brave Know How, a film depicting the United States and the Philippines working together against Japanese wartime occupation. The film is considered one of the most influential Filipino films. Poe won the most Best Actor awards at the FAMAS, citation needed. Among the films that received awards were Nga Alabaka sa Lupa, 1967, Asadillo, 1971, Jerujan Si Totoy Bato, 1979, Umpisahan Mo, Tatapusan Ko, 1983, and Muslim .357, 1986. Poe was one of the highest-paid film actors in the Philippines in the 1980s, alongside Dolphy and Vilma Santos, with his salary reaching over 1 million pesos per film. 15. In 1988, Poe partnered with San Miguel Corporation in a near 27 million Cuban pesos promotional deal for San Miguel beer. 16. His first endorsement of a product in his entire film career, with the first television commercial airing on January 20, 17. In mid-1993, Poe was then set to star in a film produced by Viva Films and directed by Pablo Santiago titled Tulaking Bibig, Kibiging Dibdib, with Alice Dixon cast as the female lead, though it did not come to fruition. 18. Among his roles were Flavio in the Unpande fantasy series, Kid Konting Paktingan, Dito Sa Pitong Gatang and Nagila. His last film, Packners, also stars 9-ball billiards champion Efren Bata Reyes. Fernando Poe Jr. was the Coalición ng Nagkakaisang Pilipino, KNP's candidate for the 2004 presidential election. He accepted nomination in December 2003 and was to be the opposition candidate in the Philippines 2004 presidential election. 19. Poe married actress Susan Rosas, the professional name of Jesusa Sonora, in a civil wedding in December 1968. They later married in a religious service, and among their primary sponsors were then-President Ferdinand Marcos and First Lady Imelda. Poe and Rosas adopted a daughter, Grace Poe, who became a senator. Poe was very reclusive about his personal life. However, in February 2004, during the presidential campaign, Poe admitted to having fathered 2 children out of wedlock. 20. He had an affair with actress Anna Marin and had 1 son, Ronian, and with former actress Rowena Moran and had a daughter, Lord Virginia. Poe was admitted to St. Luke's Medical Center in Quezon City in the evening of December 11, 2004, after complaining of dizziness at a gathering in his production studio during a Christmas party. 22. He suffered from a stroke and slipped into a coma while being treated for a brain clot. Doctors described his condition as a cerebral thrombosis with multiple organ failure. 23. He died at the age of 65 on December 14 at 12:01 a.m. Philippine time, UTC plus 8 o'clock, without regaining consciousness. 23. His remains were initially transferred to the Arlington East Memorial Chapels in Pasig, now known as the Evergreen Memorial Chapels, before being transferred a day later to the Santo Domingo Church in Quezon City. 24. 25. Organizers of the 9-day wake claimed numbers as high as 2 million. 26. The funeral procession drew tens of thousands who crowded the streets of Quezon City, an event which drew comparisons to the funeral processions of former Senator Ninoy Aquino in August 1983, who also had his wake held at the Santo Domingo Church, and of actress Julie Veda in May 1985. He was buried in his family plot along with his parents in the Manila North Cemetery. On December 14, 2012, 8 years after his death, a monument to Poe was erected at the corner of Roxas Boulevard and Arquiza Street in Ermita, Manila, with widow Susan Rosas and daughter Grace Poe attending the unveiling. 27. On January 13, 2022, President Rodrigo Duterte signed Republic Act No. 11608, renaming Roosevelt Avenue in Quezon City as Fernando Poe Jr. Avenue. 28. On his 84th birth anniversary on August 20, 2023, Roosevelt Station of LRT Line 1 in Quezon City was renamed Fernando Poe Jr. Station. FPJ Arena, a sports arena in San Jose, Batangas, also named in his honor, was inaugurated. 29. 30. In 2013, Tonton Gutierrez portrayed Fernando Poe Jr. in the life story of Poe's daughter Grace Poe, depicted by Eric Gonzalez, on Malala M. Kaya. 31. In 2015, his 1997 film on Provinciano was remade by ABS-CBN into a TV series, starring Coco Martin as the main character to portray twins, namely SPL1 Ricardo, Cardo, Dallas and Police Seniorines, Dominator, Adair, de Leon together with Susan Rosas, FPJ's widow. 32, 33. The FPJ Film Archives has been inscribed in the National Memory of the World Register of the Philippines. 34. In horse racing, Poe was posthumously inducted in the Philippine Racing Commission, PhilRacom, Hall of Fame in 2023 for promoting the discipline through his films. 35. The main road within the Metroturf Racecourse Complex in Batangas was also named after Poe. Geraldine, Dina, Bonnevie, Tagalog pronunciation, Bonbay-6, formerly Sago, Penson, and Savillano, born January 27, 1962, 5, is a Filipino actress. She is recognized as the industry's drama queen of her generation. 6. She has won 2 FAMAS Awards. 7. 2 Luna Awards and multiple Best Actress wins and nominations across all leading award-giving bodies in the country. Before joining Philippine showbiz, Bonnevie was first runner-up in the 1979 Miss Magnolia Beauty Contest. Her first film role was in the campy 1980 film Temptation Island. Bonnevie is also best known for her iconic portrayals in 14, 1980, Underage, 1980, Medyo Sa Ka, 1986, Ang Babang Nawawala Sa Sarili, 1989, and Gumapang Ka Sa Lasak, 1990. Geraldine Cher Bonnevie was born on January 27, 1962, to Swiss mother Jeanette Cher and French-Italian-Filipino father Ernesto Bonnevie. Her paternal grandfather was Pedro José de Bonnevie, a significant landowner in the Baikal region, who hails from Avion-les-Bains, France, and was part French and Italian. 8. Her grandmother was pre-World War II actress Rosita Rivera, also from Baikal. She is a cousin of singer Lou Bonnevie. Citation needed. She has 2 children from her previous marriage with comedian Vic Soto, Hoyo Boy Soto and Danica, both of whom are now in the entertainment industry as well. 9. She was also married to Ricardo Penson from 1996 until her annulment in 1999. 10. In 2012, she married politician Deogracius Victor Savillano. 11. Who died in 2025. She was educated at St. Teresa's College, Manila, and finished her elementary and secondary education at St. Agnes Academy in Legazpi City, where she was very active in drama guilds. In 1979, she was first runner-up in the Miss Magnolia Beauty Contest, where Joanna Parras took home the title. In 1980, she enrolled in communication arts at the Ateneo de Naga University and, later, the University of the Philippines. Unfortunately, she did not graduate and finish her degree. Introduced by young actor Alfie Anado to director Joey Gozianfile, she first appeared in teen dramas Underage, 1980, and Temptation Island, 1980, but her breakout movie was 14, 1980, with Anadel and Dabi Concepcion. This film established her as one of the Regal babies, named after the studio, Regal Films. She then appeared in a longer slew of teenage love or growing pains dramas. Bakit Ba Ganyan? 1981, was a film whose theme song she sang and popularized. In 1981, she starred in Age Doesn't Matter and was paired with Vic Soto. What started as a real romance turned real. The couple starred in a sitcom from 1982 to 1986 over BBC Channel 2 every Saturday at 8 p.m. entitled 2 + 2 = Gulo, sharing stellar billing with Maricel Soriano, William Martinez, and Herbert Bautista. During this period, she focused on being a homemaker and would occasionally accept showbiz assignments. In between her domestic life, she was able to finish Mike De Leon's Hindi Nahahayi Ang Langit in 1985, lending support to Lana Tolentino, Elwood Perez, Till We Meet Again and Leroy Salvador's Tinikase Dip, both with Nora Honor. In 1986, she was relaunched and repackaged by Viva Films as a dramatic actress through the comics-adapted story, Medyo Sa Ka. Bonnevie earned acting awards for her performance in Medyo Sa Ka. In 1985, she ventured into dramatic roles, starting with Mike De Leon's Hindi Nahahayi Ang Langit, 1985. She also appeared in the miniseries A Dangerous Life, 1988, with American actor Gary Busey, and in the films Or Pernobis, 1989, Pangarap na Ginto, 1990, Huwag Mom Salanjan ang Sugat Ko, 1991, and Akin ang Pangarap Mo, 1992. In Babang Nawawala Sa Sarili, 1989, Bonnevie played a possessed woman. She also portrayed real-life characters, such as in Escapo, the Surjaz-Mina Jenny Lopez story, 1995, as the wife of Jenny Lopez, as one of the accused parents in the child molestation drama, Minsan May Pangarap, the Goose family story, 1995, shot in New York City, as the girlfriend of activist Leopoldo Mabelangdan in Ca Hector, 1995, and as Governor Chavit Simpson's wife in Chavit, 2003, opposite Cesar Montano and Eddie Garcia. She also did some sexy roles in Tagara, Tagulon, where she starred with Gary Estrada, 13. Other notable films where Bonnevie showed maturity as an actress include Tinakese Dip Dip, 1985, for which she won Best Supporting Actress at the Filipino Academy of Movie Arts and Sciences, FAMAS, and Film Academy of the Philippines, FAP, awarding ceremonies, Magdusa Ka, 1986, for which she was given Best Actress awards by FAMAS, FAP, and Catholic Mass Media Awards. Gumapen Ka Sa Lusak, 1990, directed by Lino Braca, for which she was nominated by FAMAS and URAN Awards for Best Actress. And Sa Kabila Ang Laha, 1991, for which she was nominated by FAMAS, FAP, and URAN Awards for Best Actress. Other acting nominations are for Kum Kasalanan Man, 1989, FAMAS, Bakit K Tagaling Sandali, 1990, FAP, Tanjin Yaman, 2000, which won Best Picture in nearly all the local awards ceremonies and gave her an URN Best Supporting Actress nomination, American Adobo, 2001, URAN Best Actress nomination, and Bridal Shower, 2004, URAN Best Actress nomination again. Bonnevie also appeared in comedies with her former husband, Vic Soto, in Hindi Patapos on Labada, Darling, 1994, and Bakit Ba Ganyan? UNKO Nabiye, Darling, 2000. When they were still married, they also appeared together in Biyahe Mises, 1983, Ride on Baby, 1985, and Mama Said, Papa Said, I Love You, 1985. Bonnevie also top-billed Tataran, 2001, based on the short story Summer Solstice by Nick Joaquin. Critics nearly panned the movie but appreciated Bonnevie's nuanced characterization of Lupe Morda. Bonnevie started in hot top-rating soap operas such as May Bukas Pau with Viva Television and IBC 13 in 1999 to 2001. In 2001 to 2003, she joined GMA Network with the evening soap Ikaw Langon Mamahalan. In 2003 to 2004, she starred in another drama, Narito ang Puso Ko, and in 2004 to 2005 she had a lead and recurring role in the critically acclaimed primetime soap opera Hiro, starring Chris Aquino, Mickey Farias, Heart Evangelista, and Ann Curtis, which also aired internationally through the Filipino channel, earning her praise for her role. From 2005 to 2006, she was seen less on television. In 2007, she came back with soaps like Walang Kapalit and the Tuchulal Baan Dios. After doing projects with ABS-CBN, she decided to do another novela, Babangdan Ako de Argentina, with GMA Network that aired in 2008. In 2009, another soap, May Bukas Pa, a religious-themed soap, which was the same title as her 2000 to 2001 soap, and earned her many nominations as the soap ran for a year on television with an ensemble cast. From 2010 to 2012, she joined TV5 doing multiple guestings and drama shows. From 2013 to 2015, she was with ABS-CBN to do Bukas Na Lang Kita Mamahalan, Sanal Bukas Pa ang Kahapan, and Two Wives. Bonnevie staged her GMA 7 comeback as the main antagonist of the drama series starring Heart Evangelista and Lovie Poe, Beautiful Strangers. In 2017, appeared on ABS-CBN's The Blood Sisters, which aired in 2018. After the show ended, Bonnevie transferred back to GMA Network. Except for her stints on soap operas and for judging a recent TV talent contest and appearing unclothed on the cover of the local FHM magazine, Bonnevie disappeared from the limelight throughout 2005 and 2006. She temporarily moved to the United States for business purposes. She was a guest judge in You Can Dance version 2. From 2023 to 2024, Bonnevie portrayed Giselle Marie Tanyag, the sister of R.J. Tanyag, on one of the top-rating medical drama series, Apat Kame na Pangara. Her first and only album, Bakit Ba Ganyan, released in 1981 by Octal Arts International, now Polyeast Records, formerly EMI Music Philippines Incorporated, became a gold record and album of the year. Before her album, she sang a slapstick comedy ballad, Bupakan, with Joey De Leon, recorded live on a primetime TV show in 1980. Mark Angelo David Vincent, born September 20, 1953, known professionally as Roy Vincent, is a Filipino actor and film director. He is best known for his role of retired General Armando Soriano in the controversial drama My Husband's Lover. His latest films was an indie film on Bobby S.A. Cementerio and Baclas, Human Organs for Sale Pampanga, officially the province of Pampanga, Kapampangan, Lalawigan ng Pampanga, Tagalog, Lalawigan ng Pampanga, is a province in central Luzon, Philippines. Lying on the northern shore of Manila Bay, Pampanga is bordered by Tarlac to the north, Nueva Ecija to the northeast, Bulacan to the east, Manila Bay to the south, Bataan to the southwest, and Zambales to the west. Its capital is San Fernando, the regional center of central Luzon. Angeles City is the largest city in Pampanga but is administratively independent. It has been self-governing since receiving its charter in 1964. The name La Pampanga was given by the Spaniards, who found natives living along the banks, Pampang, of the Pampanga River. It was created in 1571 as the first Spanish province on Luzon. The province of Cebu in the Visayas is older, founded in 1565. The town of Villa de Bacolor briefly served as the Spanish colonial capital when Great Britain occupied Manila during the 7 Years' War. On the eve of the Philippine Revolution in 1896, Pampanga was one of 8 provinces placed under martial law for rebelling against the Spanish Empire. It is represented on the flag of the Philippines by one of the 8 rays of the sun. Pampanga is served by Clark International Airport, formerly Diosdado Macapagal International Airport, which is in Clark Freeport Zone, some 16 kilometers, 9.9 miles, north of the provincial capital. The province is home to 2 Philippine Air Force air bases, Basa Air Base in Florida Blanca and the former United States Clark Air Base in Angeles. Due to its growing population and developments, the Clark Global City is now being developed and is located in Clark Freeport Zone. In 2015, the province had 2,198,110 inhabitants, free, while it had 1,079,532 registered voters, 4. The territorial area of Old Pampanga included portions of the modern provinces of Tarlac, Bataan, Zambales, Nueva Ecija, Bulacan, and Aurora, i.e. covered almost the entire central Luzon, 5, 6, 7, 8. When the Spanish arrived at Luzon, they found Pampanga to be thickly populated with several towns and that there were 3 castles or forts protecting Pampanga, 9. Pampanga was reorganized as a province by the Spaniards on December 11, 1571. La Provincia de la Pampanga included areas mentioned above except Tonda, along with modern provinces of Aurora and parts of Quezon, including Polillo Islands, and Rizal. Pampanga also included portions of Metro Manila, which are Novaliches and Valenzuela to be exact, which was formerly known as Powell, then towns in Bulacan, 5, 8, for better administration and taxation purposes. The Spanish authorities subdivided Pampanga into pueblos, which were further subdivided into districts, barrios, and, in some cases, into royal and private estates, encomiendas. Due to excessive abuses committed by some encomenderos, King Philip II of Spain in 1574 prohibited the further awarding of private estates, but this decree was not fully enforced until 1620. In a report of Philippine encomiendas on June 20, 1591, Governor-General Gómez Pérez Dasmariñas reported to the Crown that La Pampanga's encomiendas were Batan, Batis y Lubao, Macabebe, Candaba, Apalit, Calumpit, Malolos, Bintal, Gadintal, Caluya, Bulacan and Mecabayan. The encomiendas of La Pampanga at that time had 18,680 whole tributes. Pampanga, which is about 850 square miles, 2,200 square kilometers, in area and inhabited by more than 1.5 million people, had its present borders drawn in 1873. During the Spanish regime, it was one of the richest Philippine provinces. Manila and its surrounding region were then primarily dependent on Pampangan agricultural, fishery and forestry products as well as on the supply of skilled workers. As other Luzon provinces were created due to increases in population, some well-established Pampanga towns were lost to new emerging provinces in central Luzon. During the 17th century, the Dutch recruited men from Pampanga as mercenaries who served the Royal Netherlands East Indies Army, known as Papaje, 10, part of the larger Martichkers community. Their legacy can be found in North Jakarta, 11, however, there are few traces of their descendants, except for a small community in Kampung Togo. The historic province of Batan, which was founded in 1754 under the administration of Spanish Governor-General Pedro Manuel Arandia, absorbed from the province of Pampanga the municipalities of Abuque, Balanga, Nala City, Dinalabahan, Lana Hermosa, Orani, Orion, Pilar, and Samal. During the British occupation of Manila, 1762 to 1764, Bacolor became the provisional Spanish colonial capital and military base. By the end of the 1700s, Pampanga had 16,604 native families and 2,641 Spanish-Filipino families, 12, 539, 13, 31, 54, 113 and 870 Chinese-Filipino families, 12, 460. The old Pampanga towns of Aliaga, Cabayal, Capan, San Antonio, and San Isidro were ceded to the province of Nueva Ecija in 1848 during the term of Spanish Governor-General Narciso Claverio y Zaldúa. The municipality of San Miguel de Mayumal of Pampanga was yielded to the province of Bulacan in the same provincial boundary configuration in 1848. In 1860, the northern towns of Bamban, Capiz, Concepcion, Victoria, Tarlac, Mabalacat, Magalang, Porac, and Floridablanca were separated from Pampanga and were placed under the jurisdiction of a military command called Comandancia Militar de Tarlac. However, in 1873, the four latter towns were returned to Pampanga and the other five became municipalities of the newly created province of Tarlac. During the counterinsurgencies under the Japanese occupation from 1942 to 1944, Tepampangan guerrilla fighters and the Hapalahap communist guerrillas fought side by side in the province of Pampanga, attacking and retreating the Japanese imperial forces for over 3 years of fighting and invasion. The establishment of the military general headquarters and military camp bases of the Philippine Commonwealth Army was active from 1935 to 1946. The Philippine Constabulary was active from 1935 to 1942 and 1944 to 1946 in the province of Pampanga. During the military engagements of the anti-Japanese imperial military operations in central Luzon from 1942 to 1945 in the province of Bataan, Bulacan, northern Tayabas, now Aurora, Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Tarlac, and Zambales, the local guerrilla resistance fighters and Hapbalahap communist guerrillas helped the U.S. military forces fight the Imperial Japanese Armed Forces. In the 1945 liberation of Pampanga, Kapampangan guerrilla fighters and the Hapbalahap communist guerrillas supported combat forces from Filipino and American ground troops in attacking Japanese imperial forces during the Battle of Pampanga until the end of the Second World War. Local military operations soldiers and officers of the Philippine Commonwealth Army 2nd, 26th, 3rd, 32nd, 33rd, 35th, 36th, and 37th Infantry Division and the Philippine Constabulary 3rd Constabulary Regiment recaptured and liberated the province of Pampanga and fought against the Japanese imperial forces during the Battle of Pampanga. After the Second World War, operations in the main province of Pampanga was downfall insurgencies and conflicts between the Philippine government forces and the Hapbalahap communist rebels on 1946 to 1954 during the Hapbalahap Rebellion. Under a 1947 Military Bases Agreement, 14, the Philippines granted the United States a 99-year lease on several U.S. bases, including Clark Air Base. 15, a later amendment in 1966 reduced the original 99-year term of the agreement to 25 years. 16, a renewal of the agreement in 1979. 17, allowed the U.S. to continue operating Clark Air Base until November 1991. 18, when the Philippine Senate rejected a bill for the renewal of U.S. bases in the Philippines. Due to its proximity to the capital and the presence of Clark Air Base, Pampanga became one of the flashpoint of social upheavals of the early 1970s, and the ensuing dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. 1920, even during the first demonstrations of the first quarter storm in 1970, Clark and the other U.S. bases in the Philippines were a major issue for protesters, who saw them as a continuation of the U.S. colonial hegemony and a way of dragging the Philippines into the Cold War, since Clark had become a staging point for the increasingly unpopular Vietnam War. 21, 20, 22. Upon the declaration of martial law in September 1972, Camp Olivas in the city of San Fernando was designated as one of the 4 provincial camps to become a regional command for detainees, RECAT. There was designated RECAT-I and it housed detainees from northern and central Luzon. 23. Prominent detainees imprisoned there include Edicio de la Torre, 24, Judy Taguawalo, 25, Tina Pargas, 26, Marie Hileo Enriquez, 27, and Bernarda Don Abuin, 28. Prisoners who were documented to have been tortured include the sisters Joanna and Josefina Carino, 29, the brothers Romulo and Armando Palabe, 23, and Mariano Hiner Jr. of Abra, 23, about 50 Kalinga and Bontoc leaders, including Bukbut tribe leader Makayan G. Dulag, were also brought to Camp Olivas from their detainment center in Tabuk, Kalinga, arrested for their opposition to the Chico River Dam project. 30. Seminarian Teresito Sison had campaigned for the rights of teachers, farmers, and of laborers in Clark Air Base, but torture during 2 stints in Marcos's detention centers caused a decline in his health which led to his death in 1980. 31. Others were killed without being arrested, such as close friends Pepito de Hiran, Rolando Castro, and Lito Cabrera were sleeping in Cabrera's property in Sapambato, Angeles when they were attacked, captured, and tortured by Marcos's civilian Home Defense Force militia forces after they participated in the protest movement that grew out of the assassination of opposition leader Ninoy Aquino. De Hiran managed to escape the ordeal alive and was taken to the hospital, but was stabbed by unknown assailants in his own hospital bed. 32. Jose B. Lingad, congressman for Pampanga's 1st Congressional District, had been one of the first to be detained upon the declaration of martial law, but was released after 3 months. 33. He retired to his farm after that, but was later convinced by Benigno Aquino Jr. to run for the governorship of Pampanga in the January 1980 Philippine local elections. 33. Estelito Mendoza was declared the winner of the election, but Lingad filed a protest, which was still ongoing when Lingad was assassinated in December 1980 at a gasoline station in Barangay San Agustin, San Fernando, Pampanga. 34. His assassin, a former sergeant in the Philippine Constabulary, was himself killed in a mysterious car accident before he could reveal who had ordered the killing. 35. Major events that took place in Pampanga after the People Power Revolution include the Mount Pinatubo eruption and the end of the Philippines Bases Treaty with the United States, which resulted in the closure of Clark Air Base and the later creation of the Clark Freeport and Special Economic Zone. The June 15, 1991, eruption of Mount Pinatubo displaced a large number of people with the submersion of whole towns and villages by massive lahar floods. This led to a large-scale advancement in disaster preparation in government. It also hastened the closure of Clark Air Base, which would close as a result of the November 1991 decision of the Philippine Senate not to renew the Philippines Bases Treaty with the United States. Robert Iligan Arevalo, Tagalog pronunciation, born Robert Francisco Iligan, May 6, 1938 to August 10, 2023, was a Filipino actor and director. Robert Arevalo was born as Robert Francisco Iligan in Dumaguete, Negros Oriental on May 6, 1938. He was the son of Filipino film actor, composer, and musician Tito Arevalo and Guadalupe Francisco. His uncles included actor and director Angel Esmeralda, who was the father of actor J. Ilagan, Gerardo de Leon, who was a national artist and an award-winning movie director, and actor and director Conrado Conde. He was also an uncle of actress Liberty Ilagan. 1. He attended the Legarda Elementary School, San Beda College and Ateneo de Manila where he studied business administration. Arevalo first began acting as a drama actor for Premiere Productions. His major screen debut was in Gerardo de Leon's Huwad Mo Kang Limutan, 1960, which was banned by censors for perceived immoral themes. 1. He later worked for an advertising agency and managed Channel 5 until the early 1970s. 1. In 1977, Arevalo directed and starred in the action film Hubad Nabayani, lit. Naked Hero, which garnered him the first Catholic Mass Media Awards for Best Scriptwriter and Best Picture. Aside from acting, Arevalo also served as the anchor of ABS-CBN's news bulletin Balita Ngayon along with Mel Tiangco. This followed after the station resumed broadcasting following the People Power Revolution in 1986, and lasted until the program's replacement by TV Patrol in 1987. Sampaguita Pictures was established in the last quarter of 1937. Its first feature-length film was Bichuring Marikit, starring Elsa Horia and Rogelio Della Rosa. It was a box office hit. The company continued to make films in the action, musical, horror and suspense genres. Before World War II began, and the Japanese occupied the Philippines, several Sampaguita films enjoyed box office success in the region. Some of them employed the famous tandem of Carmen Rosales and Rogelio Della Rosa, like Panambitan, Pexil, Jasmine, and many more. But the first film made at the Sampaguita studio by Carmen and Rogelio was Takipsilim. After the war ended and the Philippines was granted its independence by the United States, Sampaguita made several war pictures in 1946, including Guerrillera, with Carmen and newcomer Celso Baltazar, Manila, the comeback picture of Corazon Noble featuring Tita Duran, and Isumpa Mo Giliw, with husband and wife Team Angel Esmeralda and Corazon Noble. After several war musicals became popular, the studio created a new star team with real husband and wife Pancho Magalona and Tita Duran. They made several hits including Bulaklak na Walang Pangalan, Huwad Ka ng Magtampo, Sa Isang Suliap Mo Tita, and Sa Isang Halik Mo Pancho. In 1950, the studios were hit by fire and hundreds of film prints were destroyed. But in 1951, they top-billed the unknown Tessia Ganya, the daughter of Linda Estrella, in her first lead role in Roberta, with another child actor Boy Alano, and the film became the highest-grossing Philippine film of all time, 6. In the early 50s, several actors appeared in the studio's productions, including Alicia Virgil and her husband Cesar Ramirez in Akala, Dewani, the Philippine folk hero Bernardo Capio, MN, and many more. In 1952, the Filipino-American Gloria Romero made her first full-length film as the partner of Cesar Ramirez in an action costume picture Palisade. Another famous husband and wife team were Rita Gomez and Rick Rodrigo. They were popular together in their film Diosa. The infamous tandem of husband and wife Lolita Rodriguez and Eddie Arenas made some dramas together, like Kundimaning Puso, Bisabos, Cicatruz, and Mapag na Lihim. The two later divorced. Arenas is still active in Philippine cinema while Rodriguez moved to the United States. Another husband and wife team in the 1950s were Amalia Fuentes and Romeo Vastez. Fuentes made her last appearance for Sampaguita in 1964, before leaving for another studio. Though not as well remembered, many supporting actors and actresses, such as Imelda Concepcion, Nellie Balin, and Nady Bernardo worked in the Sampaguita system. Susan Rosas took her first lead role as a boxer in Sabundra opposite Luis Gonzalez, but the film was not a box office hit. Fuentes and Rosas are famous for their rivalry when they made the film Cover Girls in the 1960s. By that time, a new manager, Dr. Jose A. Perez, took over the reins of Sampaguita. In 1960, Sampaguita made Pitong Pagsisi supported by 20 Sampaguita stars, including the return of Paraluman who reigned in the studio in the late 40s. In 1970s, the studio continued producing films albeit on a limited production, especially with the Nora Honor Tercel Cruz Dri tandem culminating in the 1971 film Guy and Pip. In 1982, after its last successful film Batch 81, Sampaguita Pictures stopped producing films and focused solely on distribution and post-production of films until 2005. In March 1987, Sampaguita Pictures celebrated its 50th anniversary with a television special produced by Marichu Perez Maceda, the wife of politician Ernesto Maceda, 7. In 1996, the company ventured into television with GMA Network. They produced the drama anthology series Pira-Pirasan Pangarap, which lasted until 2003, which started another co-production Nagmamahal, Manay Gina. Both series were hosted by Gina De Venetia. Unitel Pictures currently owns Sampaguita's film library. All of the films are currently archived and handled by the ABS-CBN Film Archives and the Film Development Council of the Philippines National Film Archives of the Philippines. A production company, production house, or production studio is a studio that creates works in the fields of performing arts, new media art, film, television, radio, comics, interactive arts, video games, websites, music, and video. These groups consist of technical staff and members to produce the media, and are often incorporated as a commercial publisher. Generally, the term refers to all individuals responsible for the technical aspects of creating a particular product, regardless of where in the process their expertise is required, or how long they are involved in the project. For example, in a theatrical performance, the production team has not only the running crew, but also the theatrical producer, designers, and theatrical direction. Tasks and functions. The production company may be directly responsible for fundraising the production or may accomplish this through a parent company, partner, or private investor. It handles budgeting, scheduling, scripting, the supply with talent and resources, the organization of staff, the production itself, post-production, distribution, and marketing. 1. Production companies are often either owned or under contract with a media conglomerate, film studio, record label, video game publisher, or entertainment company, due to the concentration of media ownership, who act as the production company's partner or parent company. This has become known as the studio system. Independent studios usually prefer production house, see Lionsgate, production studio, see Amazon Studios, or production team, see Rooster Teeth. In the case of television, a production company would serve under a television network. Production companies can work together in co-productions. In music, the term production team typically refers to a group of individuals filling the role of record producer, usually reserved for one individual. Some examples of musical production teams include Matmos and D-Influence. The aforementioned publishing conglomerates distribute said creative works, but it is not uncommon for production companies to act as a publication. For example, the Walt Disney Company and Nintendo act as publisher for Walt Disney Animation Studios and Nintendo Entertainment Planning and Development respectively. Self-publishing, in this case, should not be confused with a self-publishing vanity press, which are paid services. Both large and small production studios have an editorial board or editor-in-chief, along with other forms of a command hierarchy. Type. Entertainment companies operate as many conglomerate, operating many divisions or subsidiaries in many different industries. Warner Brothers Entertainment and Lionsgate Entertainment are two companies with this corporate structure. It allows for a single company to maintain control over seemingly unrelated companies that fall within the ranges of entertainment, which increases and centralizes the revenue into one company. Example, a film production company, TV production company, video game company, and comic book company are all owned by a single entertainment company. A motion picture company, such as Paramount Pictures, specializing only in motion pictures, is only connected with its other counterpart industries through its parent company. Instead of performing a corporate reorganization, many motion picture companies often have sister companies they collaborate with in other industries that are subsidiaries owned by their parent company and is often not involved in the making of products that are not motion picture related. A film production company can either operate as an affiliate, under a contract, or as a subsidiary for an entertainment company, motion picture company, television network, or all, and are generally smaller than the company they are partnered with. Book-to-film unit. A book-to-film unit is a unit of a book publishing company for the purposes of getting books that they published adapted into film. Background. Films have been using books as a prime source for films for years. In 2012, 6 out of the 9 Best Picture Oscar nominees were originally books. Previously, publishers did not develop their books into movie nor receive any of the profits. Neither Scholastic or Little Brown get any box office revenue from the Harry Potter and the Twilight Saga movies, just through book sales. As the publishers face decreasing revenue due to increased competition from self-published ebooks, or Amazon.com moving into the publishing field, publishers have started to enter the film and TV production business to boost their net income, too, with Amazon attempting to compete there too. More screenwriters are turning to book publishers to get their screenplay published as a book, so as to have a boost in their attempt to have the screenplay turned into a movie, given that it is a known product after the book. 4. History. Publisher Simon & Schuster, though not involved with film and TV, shares possible film and TV deals with CBS. SNS is owned by Paramount Global. 5. Alloy Entertainment, while not a unit of a publisher, started using a book package-into-film model of film and TV development by developing the property in-house, hire authors for the books and films, so as to own the property. Random House was the first Big Six book publisher to establish a book-to-film unit, Random House Films, in 2005 with a Focus Features deal under development and co-finance plan. 2. Operation and profit. A production company is usually run by a producer or director, but can also be run by a career executive. In entertainment, a production company relies highly on talent or a well-known entertainment franchise to raise the value of an entertainment project and draw out larger audiences. This gives the entertainment industry a democratized power structure to ensure that both the companies and talent receive their fair share of pay and recognition for work done on a production. The entertainment industry is centered on funding, investments from studios, investment firms, or individuals, either from earnings from previous productions or personal wealth, projects, scripts and entertainment franchises, and talent, actors, directors, screenwriters, and crew. Production companies are judged and ranked based on the amount of funding it has, as well as the productions it has completed or been involved with in the past. If a production company has major funding either through earnings, studio investors, or private investors, and has done or been involved with big-budget productions in the past, it is considered to be a major production company. These companies often work with well-known and expensive talent. If a production company does not have much funding and has not done or been involved with any big-budget productions, it is considered to be a small production company. These companies often work with up-and-coming talent. Small production companies will either grow to become a major production company, a subsidiary completely owned by another company, remain small, or fail. The success of an entertainment production company is centered on the projects it produces, the talent it can acquire, and the performance of the talent. Marketing is also a major factor. All films, as a tradition, are often marketed around the image and the performance of the actors, with an option of marketing the behind-the-scenes crew such as the directors and screenwriters. Unlike many other businesses, a production company does not rely on an ongoing revenue stream, they operate on ongoing investments. This often requires a parent company or a private corporate investment entity, see Legendary Pictures. Their only source of profit comes from the productions they produce. Because entertainment and media are currently in high demand, a production company can profit if its management is capable of using its resources to supply good quality products and services to the public. Many entertainment production companies brand their entertainment projects. An entertainment project can either become a one-time hit or an ongoing entertainment franchise that can be continued, remade, rebooted, or expanded into other sister industries, such as the video game industry, see Star Wars, Star Trek. Entertainment projects can be either an original or an adaptation from another industry. In rare occasional cases, a few troubled major studios would also shed their distribution and/or marketing staffs, mainly due to reduced resources, and resort to co-investing and/or co-distributing film projects with larger studios, operating as virtual, production-only movie studios. Notable examples include legendary studio Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, which, after many years of box office flops, mostly with low budgets, bad management and distribution, and bankruptcy, was restructured at the end of 2010 under new management and currently struck deals with some of the Big Six studios, most notably the Sony Pictures Motion Picture Group and Warner Bros. Miramax, which was downsized by former owner Disney into a smaller division. Staffing, funds, and equipment. Because a production company is only operational when a production is being produced and most of the talent and crew are freelancers, many production companies are only required to hire management staff that helps to oversee the company's daily activities. In some cases, a production company can be run by only a handful of people. The company's funds are mainly committed towards employing talent, crew, and acquiring new updated production equipment on a regular basis. Many productions often require at least 1 to 2 cameras and lighting equipment for on-location shooting. Production equipment is either leased or purchased from another production company or directly from the manufacturer. In the entertainment industry, in order to secure experienced professional talent and crew, production companies often become a signatory company to that talent or crew members' guild. By becoming a signatory company, it agrees to abide by the guild regulations. All big-budget guild productions are exclusive to guild members, and non-guild members are not allowed to participate in these productions unless authorized by the guild. Productions with smaller budgets are allowed to use both guild talent and talent from the public. The majority of the talent and crew working in the entertainment industry are members of their profession's guild. Most productions in the entertainment industry are guild productions. Production. A production company is responsible for the development and filming of a specific production or media broadcast. In entertainment, the production process begins with the development of a specific project. Once a final script has been produced by the screenwriters, the production enters into the pre-production phase. Most productions never reach this phase for financing or talent reasons. In pre-production, the actors are signed on and prepared for their roles, crew is signed on, shooting locations are found, sets are built or acquired, and the proper shooting permits are acquired for on-location shooting. Actors and crew are hand-picked by the producer, director, and casting director, who often use collaborators or reference personnel to prevent untrusted or unwelcomed people from gaining access to a specific production and compromising the entire production through leaks. Once a production enters into principal photography, it begins filming. Productions are almost never cancelled once they reach this phase. Codenames are often used on bigger productions during filming to conceal the production's shooting locations for both privacy and safety reasons. In many cases, the director, producers, and the leading actors are often the only people with access to a full or majority of a single script. Supporting actors, background actors, and crew often never receive a full copy of a specific script to prevent leaks. Productions are often shot in secured studios, with limited to no public access, but they are also shot on location on secured sets or locations. Due to the exposure, when shooting in public locations, major productions often employ security to ensure the protection of the talent and crew working on a specific production. After filming is completed, the production enters into post-production, which is handled by a post-production company and overseen by the production company. The editing, musical score, visual effects, re-recording of the dialogue, and sound effects are mixed to create the final film, which is then screened at the final screening. Marketing is also launched during this phase, such as the release of trailers and posters. Once a final film has been approved, the film is taken over by the distributors, who then release the film. Other details. For legal reasons, it is common within the entertainment industry for production companies not to accept unsolicited materials from any other company, talent, or the general public. It is also common for filmmakers or producers to become entrepreneurs and open their own production companies so that they can have more control over their careers and pay, while acting as an in-house, creative and business driving force for their company but continuing to freelance as an artist for other companies, if desired. Overall deal where a distributor has the rights to all the output of a production company. 9. The creator is paid in an overall deal regardless if projects are taken to production or not, and all projects developed are owned by the distributor. 10. 11. First look deal where a network has the right of refusal to all the output of a production company, after which the production company is free to shop the project to other distributors. Filmmaking or film production is the process of creating a motion picture. It involves a number of distinct stages, including an initial story idea or commission, followed by screenwriting, casting, pre-production, shooting, sound recording, post-production, and screening the finished product before an audience, which may result in a film release and exhibition. The process is non-linear, in that the filmmaker typically shoots the script out of sequence, repeats shots as needed, and puts them together through editing later. Filmmaking takes place in a variety of economic, social, and political contexts around the world, and uses a wide range of technologies and cinematic techniques. While originally films were recorded on photographic film, most modern filmmaking is now digital. 1. The production of a film typically consists of 5 major stages. The first is development, where the initial idea for the film is explored, rights to intellectual property may be secured, the screenplay is written, and financing is obtained. This is followed by pre-production, where all the arrangements and preparations for the shoot are made, including hiring cast and crew, scouting and securing locations, and constructing sets. The third stage is production, which is when the raw footage and other elements of the film are recorded. After filming is complete, the project enters post-production. In this stage, the raw footage is edited, sound is mixed, visual effects are added, and the musical score is composed and recorded. The final stage is distribution, where the finished film is released to audiences. This involves marketing and promotion, and the film may be shown in cinemas, released on home video, or made available through streaming services. Some filmmakers operate outside of the mainstream system and engage in independent filmmaking, which has become more accessible with the advent of affordable digital technology. Development: ideas for the film are created, rights to existing intellectual properties are purchased, etc., and the screenplay is written. Financing for the project is sought and obtained. Pre-production: arrangements and preparations are made for the shoot, such as hiring cast and film crew, selecting locations, and constructing sets. Production: the raw footage and other elements of the film are recorded during the film shoot, including principal photography. Post-production: the images, sound, and visual effects of the recorded film are edited and combined into a finished product. Distribution: the completed film is distributed, marketed, and screened in cinemas and released on home video to be viewed at home. Development: the development stage contains both general and specific components. Each film studio has a yearly retreat where their top creative executives meet and interact on a variety of areas and topics they wish to explore through collaborations with producers and screenwriters, and then ultimately, directors, actors, and actresses. They choose trending topics from the media and real life, as well as many other sources, to determine their yearly agenda. For example, in a year when action is popular, they may wish to explore that topic in one or more movies. Sometimes, they purchase the rights to articles, best-selling novels, plays, the remaking of older films, stories with some basis in real life through a person or event, a video game, fairy tale, comic book, graphic novel. Likewise, research through surveys may inform their decisions. They may have had blockbusters from their previous year and wish to explore a sequel. They will additionally acquire a completed and independently financed and produced film. Such notable examples are Little Miss Sunshine, The English Patient, and Roma. Studios hold general meetings with producers and screenwriters about original story ideas. In my decade working as a writer, I knew of only a few that were sold and fewer that made it to the screen, relays writer Wayne Powers. Alan Watt, writer-director and founder of the LA Writers Lab, confirmed that completed original screenplays, referred to as specs, make big news when they sell, but these make up a very small portion of movies that are ultimately given the green light to be produced by the president of a studio. The executives return from the retreat with fairly well-established instructions. They spread these concepts through the industry community, especially to producers they have deals with. Traditional studios will have those producers in offices on their lots. Also, agents for screenwriters are made aware. This results in a pairing of producers with writers, where they develop a basic story idea that utilizes the concept given by studio executives. Often it is a competition with several pairings meeting with studio executives and pitching their take. Very few writing jobs are from original ideas brought to studios by producers or writers. Perhaps one movie a year will be a spec script that was purchased. Once the producer and writer have sold their approach to the desired subject matter, they begin to work. However, many writers and producers usually pass before a particular concept is realized in a way that is awarded a green light to production. Production of Unforgiven, which earned Oscars for its director/star Clint Eastwood, as well as its screenwriter, David Webb Peoples, required 15 years. Powers related that the Italian job took approximately 8 years from concept to screen, which, as Powers added, is average. And most concepts turned into paid screenplays wind up gathering dust on some executive's shelf, never to see production. Writers have different styles and creative processes, some have stronger track records than others. Because of this, how the development process proceeds from there and how much detail a writer returns to the studio to divulge before beginning writing can vary greatly. Screenwriters are often protected by the union, the Writers Guild of America, or WGA. The WGA allows a screenwriter to contract for one draft, one revision, and one polish. Bob Isle, writer and member of the Guild board, states, additional writing requires an extension of contracts and payment for additional work. They are paid 80% of their fee after the first draft. Preliminary discussions are minimal with studio executives but might be quite detailed with the producer. Next, a screenwriter writes a screenplay over a period of several months, or however long it takes. Deadlines are in their contracts, but there is no pressure to adhere to them. Again, every writer's process and speed vary. The screenwriter may rewrite the script several times to improve dramatization, clarity, structure, characters, dialogue, and overall style. Script coverage, a freelance job held by recent university graduates, does not feed scripts into the system that are ready for production nor already produced. Coverage is a way for young screenwriters to be read, and their ideas might make their way up to an executive or famous producer and result in meet and greets, where relations with up-and-comers can be formed. but it has not historically yielded ideas studios pursue into production. The studio is the film distributor who at an early stage attempts to choose a slate of concepts that are likely to have market appeal and find potential financial success. Hollywood distributors consider factors such as the film genre, the target audience and assumed audience, the historical success of similar films, the actors who might appear in the film, and potential directors. All these factors imply a certain appeal of the film to a possible audience. Not all films make a profit from the theatrical release alone, however, the studio mainly targets the opening weekend and the second weekend to make most domestic profits. Occasionally, a film called a word-of-mouth film does not market strongly, but its success spreads by word of mouth. It slowly gains its audience. These are special circumstances, and these films may remain in theaters for 5 months while a typical film run is closer to 5 weekends. Further earnings result from pay television purchases, foreign market purchases, and DVD sales to establish worldwide distribution gross of a film. Once a screenplay is greenlit, directors and actors are attached and the film proceeds into the pre-production stage, although sometimes development and pre-production stages will overlap. Projects which fail to obtain a green light may have protracted difficulties in making the transition to pre-production and enter a phase referred to as development hell for extended period of time or until developmental turnaround. Analogous to almost any business venture, financing of a film project deals with the study of filmmaking as the management and procurement of investments. It includes the dynamics of assets that are required to fund the filmmaking and liabilities incurred during the filmmaking over the time period from early development through the management of profits and losses after distribution under conditions of different degrees of uncertainty and risk. The practical aspects of filmmaking finance can also be defined as the science of the money management of all phases involved in filmmaking. Film finance aims to price assets based on their risk level and their expected rate of return based upon anticipated profits and protection against losses. In pre-production, every step of actually creating the film is carefully designed and planned. This is the phase where one would narrow down all the options of the production. It is where all the planning takes place before the camera rolls and sets the overall vision of the project. The production company is created and a production office established. The film is pre-visualized by the director and may be storyboarded with the help of illustrators and concept artists. A production budget is drawn up to plan expenditures for the film. For major productions, insurance is procured to protect against accidents. Pre-production also includes working out the shoot location and casting process. The producer hires a line manager or a production manager to create the schedule and budget for the film. The nature of the film and the budget determine the size and type of crew used during filmmaking. Many Hollywood blockbusters employ a cast and crew of hundreds, while a low-budget, independent film may be made by a skeleton crew of 8 or 9, or fewer. These are typical crew positions. In production, the film is created and shot. In this phase, it is key to keep planning ahead of the daily shoot. The primary aim is to stick to the budget and schedule, which requires constant vigilance. More crew will be recruited at this stage, such as the property master, script supervisor, assistant directors, stills photographer, picture editor, and sound editors. These are the most common roles in filmmaking. The production office will be free to create any unique blend of roles to suit the various responsibilities needed during the production of a film. Communication is key between the location, set, office, production company, distributors, and all other parties involved. A typical day shooting begins with the crew arriving on the set/location by their call time. Actors usually have their own separate call times. Since set construction, dressing and lighting can take many hours or even days, they are often set up in advance. The GRIC, electric and production design crews are typically a step ahead of the camera and sound departments. For efficiency's sake, while a scene is being filmed, they are already preparing the next one. While the crew prepares their equipment, the actors do their costumes and attend the hair and makeup departments. The actors rehearse the script and blocking with the director, and the camera and sound crews rehearse with them and make final tweaks. Finally, the action is shot in as many takes as the director wishes. Most American productions follow a specific procedure. The assistant director, AD, calls "picture is up" to inform everyone that a take is about to be recorded, and then, "quiet, everyone." Once everyone is ready to shoot, the AD calls "roll sound" if the take involves sound, and the production sound mixer will start their equipment, record a verbal slate of the take's information, and announce sound speed, or just speed, when they are ready. The AD follows with roll camera, answered by speed, by the camera operator once the camera is recording. The clapper loader, who is already in front of the camera with the clapperboard, pulls marker, and slaps it shut. If the take involves extras or background action, the AD will cue them, action background, and last is the director, telling the actors, action. The AD may echo action louder on large sets. A take is over when the director calls cut, and the camera and sound stop recording. The script supervisor will note any continuity issues, and the sound and camera teams log technical notes for the take on their respective report sheets. If the director decides additional takes are required, the whole process repeats. Once satisfied, the crew moves on to the next camera angle or setup until the whole scene is covered. When shooting is finished for the scene, the assistant director declares a wrap or moving on, and the crew will strike or dismantle the set for that scene. At the end of the day, the director approves the next day's shooting schedule and a daily progress report is sent to the production office. This includes the report sheets from continuity, sound, and camera teams. Call sheets are distributed to the cast and crew to tell them when and where to turn up the next shooting day. Later on, the director, producer, other department heads, and, sometimes, the cast, may gather to watch that day or yesterday's footage, called dailies, and review their work. With workdays often lasting 14 or 18 hours in remote locations, film production tends to create a team spirit. When the entire film is in the can, or in the completion of the production phase, it is customary for the production office to arrange a wrap party to thank all the cast and crew for their efforts. For the production phase on live-action films, synchronizing work schedules of cast and crew members is very important. 7. For many scenes, several cast members and many crew members must be physically present at the same place at the same time, and bankable stars may need to rush from one project to another. Animated films have different workflow at the production phase, in that voice actors can record their takes in the recording studio at different times and may not see one another until the film's premiere. 8. Animated films also have different crew, since most physical live-action tasks are either unnecessary or are simulated by various types of animators. Post-production. Main article, post-production. This stage is usually thought of as starting when principal photography ends, but they may overlap. The bulk of post-production consists of the film editor reviewing the footage with the director and assembling the film out of selected takes. The production sound, dialogue, is also edited. Music tracks and songs are composed and recorded if a film is intended to have a score. Sound effects are designed and recorded. Any computer-generated visual effects are digitally added by an artist. Finally, all sound elements are mixed down into stems, which are synchronized to the images on the screen, and the film is fully completed, locked. Distribution. Main article, Film distribution. Distribution is the last stage, where the film is released in movie theaters or, occasionally, directly to consumer media, VHS, VCD, DVD, Blu-ray, or direct download from a digital media provider. The film is duplicated as required, either onto film or hard disk drives, and distributed in cinemas for exhibition, screening. Press kits, posters, and other advertising materials are published, and the film is advertised and promoted. A B-roll clip may be released to the press based on raw footage shot for a making-of documentary, which may include making-of clips as well as on-set interviews separate from those of the production company or distributor. For major films, key personnel are often contractually required to participate in promotional tours in which they appear at premieres and festivals and sit for interviews with many TV, print, and online journalists. The largest productions may require more than one promotional tour in order to rejuvenate audience demand at each release window. Since the advent of home video in the late 1970s, most major films have followed a pattern of having several distinct release windows. A film may first be released to a few select cinemas, or if it tests well enough, may go directly into wide release. Next, it is released, normally at different times several weeks or months apart, into different market segments like rental, retail, pay-per-view, in-flight entertainment, cable television, satellite television, or free-to-air broadcast television. The distribution rights for the film are also usually sold for worldwide distribution. The distributor and the production company share profits and manage losses. Independent filmmaking. Main article, Independent film. Sound recordist Curtis Choi left on location for Dim Sum, A Little Bit of Heart, an indie film by director Wayne Wan, Center, on Clement Street in the Richmond district of San Francisco, California, 1983. Filmmaking also takes place outside of the mainstream and is commonly called independent filmmaking. Since the introduction of DV technology, the means of production have become more democratized and economically viable. Filmmakers can conceivably shoot and edit a film, create and edit the sound and music, and mix the final cut on a home computer. However, while the means of production may be democratized, financing, traditional distribution, and marketing remain difficult to accomplish outside the traditional system. In the past, most independent filmmakers have relied on film festivals, such as Sundance Film Festival, Venice Film Festival, Cannes Film Festival, and Toronto International Film Festivals, to get their films noticed and sold for distribution and production. However, the Internet has allowed for the relatively inexpensive distribution of independent films on websites such as YouTube. As a result, several companies have emerged to assist filmmakers in getting independent movies seen and sold via mainstream internet marketplaces, often adjacent to popular Hollywood titles. With internet movie distribution, independent filmmakers who choose to forego a traditional distribution deal now have the ability to reach global audiences. A film, is a work of visual art that simulates experiences and otherwise communicates ideas, stories, perceptions, emotions, or atmosphere through the use of moving images that are generally, since the 1930s, synchronized with sound and sometimes using other sensory stimulations. 1. Films are produced by recording actual people and objects with cameras or by creating them using animation techniques and special effects. They comprise a series of individual frames, but when these images are shown rapidly in succession, the illusion of motion is given to the viewer. Flickering between frames is not seen due to an effect known as persistence of vision, whereby the eye retains a visual image for a fraction of a second after the source has been removed. Also of relevance is what causes the perception of motion, a psychological effect identified as beta movement. Films are considered by many to be an important art form. Films entertain, educate, enlighten, and inspire audiences. The visual elements of cinema need no translation, giving the motion picture a universal power of communication. Any film can become a worldwide attraction, especially with the addition of dubbing or subtitles that translate the dialogue. Films are also artifacts created by specific cultures, which reflect those cultures, and, in turn, affect them. The stroboscopic animation principle was introduced in 1833 with the stroboscopic disc, better known as the phenakistoscope, and later applied in the zoetrope, since 1866, the flipbook, since 1868, and the praxinoscope, since 1877, before it became the basic principle for cinematography. Citation needed. Experiments with early phenakistoscope-based animation projectors were made at least as early as 1843 and publicly screened in 1847. Jules Dubosc marketed phenakistoscope projection systems in France from c. 1853 until the 1890s. Citation needed. Photography was introduced in 1839, but initially photographic emulsions needed such long exposures that the recording of moving subjects seemed impossible. At least as early as 1844, photographic series of subjects posed in different positions were created to either suggest a motion sequence or document a range of different viewing angles. The advent of stereoscopic photography, with early experiments in the 1840s and commercial success since the early 1850s, raised interest in completing the photographic medium with the addition of means to capture color and motion. In 1849, Joseph Plateau published about the idea to combine his invention of the phenakistoscope with the stereoscope, as suggested to him by stereoscope inventor Charles Wheatstone, and to use photographs of plaster sculptures in different positions to be animated in the combined device. In 1852, Jules Dubosc patented such an instrument as the stereoscope phantoscope, Hoyu bioscope, but he only marketed it very briefly, without success. One bioscope disc with stereoscopic photographs of a machine is in the Plateau collection of Dent University, but no instruments or other discs have yet been found. Citation needed. An animation of the retouched Sally Garner card from the Horse in Motion series, 1878 to 1879, by Muybridge. By the late 1850s, the first examples of instantaneous photography came about and provided hope that motion photography would soon be possible, but it took a few decades before it was successfully combined with a method to record series of sequential images in real time. In 1878, Edward Muybridge eventually managed to take a series of photographs of a running horse with a battery of cameras in a line along the track and published the results as the Horse in Motion on cabinet cards. Muybridge, as well as Etienne Jules Méry, Audemars Anschutz, and many others, would create many more chronophotography studies. Muybridge had the contours of dozens of his chronophotographic series traced onto glass discs and projected them with his zoopraxiscope in his lectures from 1880 to 1895. Anschutz made his first instantaneous photographs in 1881. He developed a portable camera that allowed shutter speeds as short as 1/1000 of a second in 1882. The quality of his pictures was generally regarded as much higher than that of the chronophotography works of Muybridge and Etienne Jules Méry. 5. In 1886, Anschutz developed the electrotachyscope, an early device that displayed short motion picture loops with 24 glass plate photographs on a 1.5-meter wide rotating wheel that was hand-cranked to a speed of circa 30 frames per second. Different versions were shown at many international exhibitions, fairs, conventions, and arcades from 1887 until at least 1894. Starting in 1891, some 152 examples of a coin-operated peep-box electrotachoscope model were manufactured by Siemens and Halske in Berlin and sold internationally. 6. Nearly 34,000 people paid to see it at the Berlin Exhibition Park in the summer of 1892. Others saw it in London or at the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. On November 25, 1894, Anschutz introduced an electrotachoscope projector with a 6 by 8 meter screening in Berlin. Between February 22 and March 30, 1895, a total of circa 7,000 paying customers came to view a 1.5-hour show of some 40 scenes and a 300-seat hall in the old Reichstag building in Berlin. Duration: 4 minutes and 59 seconds. 4 to 59 subtitles available. cc. Palfra Piero, 1892, repainted clip. Emile Reynaud already mentioned the possibility of projecting images of the praxinoscope in his 1877 patent application. He presented a praxinoscope projection device at the Société Française de Photographie on June 4, 1880, but did not market his praxinoscope projection before 1882. He then further developed the device into the theater optique, which could project longer sequences with separate backgrounds, patented in 1888. He created several movies for the machine by painting images on hundreds of gelatin plates that were mounted into cardboard frames and attached to a cloth band. From October 28, 1892 to March 1900, Reynaud gave over 12,800 shows to a total of over 500,000 visitors at the Musée Grévin in Paris. Citation needed. The earliest films were simply one static shot that showed an event or action with no editing or other cinematic techniques. Typical films showed employees leaving a factory gate, people walking in the street, and the view from the front of a trolley as it traveled a city's main street. According to legend, when a film showed a locomotive at high speed approaching the audience panicked and ran from the theater. Around the turn of the 20th century, films started stringing several scenes together to tell a story. The filmmakers who first put several shots or scenes discovered that, when one shot follows another, that act establishes a relationship between the content in the separate shots in the minds of the viewer. It is this relationship that makes all film storytelling possible. In a simple example, if a person is shown looking out a window, whatever the next shot shows, it will be regarded as the view the person was seeing. Each scene was a single stationary shot with the action occurring before it. The scenes were later broken up into multiple shots photographed from different distances and angles. Citation needed. Duration: 1 minute and 48 seconds. 1 to 48. A clip from the Charlie Chaplin silent film The Bond, 1918. Other techniques such as camera movement were developed as effective ways to tell a story with film. Until sound film became commercially practical in the late 1920s, motion pictures were a purely visual art, but these innovative silent films had gained a hold on the public imagination. Rather than leave audiences with only the noise of the projector as an accompaniment, theater owners hired a pianist or organist or, in large urban theaters, a full orchestra to play music that fit the mood of the film at any given moment. By the early 1920s, most films came with a prepared list of sheet music to be used for this purpose, and complete film scores were composed for major productions. Citation needed. The rise of European cinema was interrupted by the outbreak of World War I, while the film industry in the United States flourished with the rise of Hollywood, typified most prominently by the innovative work of D.W. Griffith in The Birth of a Nation, 1915, and Intolerance, 1916. However, in the 1920s, European filmmakers such as Eisenstein, F.W. Murnau and Fritz Lang, in many ways inspired by the meteoric wartime progress of film through Griffith, along with the contributions of Charles Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and others, quickly caught up with American filmmaking and continued to further advance the medium. Citation needed. 1920s, 1960s, evolution in sound. In the 1920s, the development of electronic sound recording technologies made it practical to incorporate a soundtrack of speech, music, and sound effects synchronized with the action on the screen. Citation needed. The resulting sound films were initially distinguished from the usual silent, moving pictures, horror movies, by calling them talking pictures, horror talkies. 11. The revolution they wrought was swift. By 1930, silent film was practically extinct in the U.S. and already being referred to as the old media. Citation needed. Duration, 1 hour, 28 minutes and 57 seconds. 1 to 28 to 57. Sound in cinema started gaining acceptance with movies like The Jazz Singer, 1927. The evolution of sound in cinema began with the idea of combining moving images with existing phonograph sound technology. Early sound film systems, such as Thomas Edison's kinetoscope and the Vitaphone used by Warner Brothers, laid the groundwork for synchronized sound in film. The Vitaphone system, produced alongside Bell Telephone Company and Western Electric, faced initial resistance due to expensive equipping costs, but sound in cinema gained acceptance with movies like Don Juan, 1926, and The Jazz Singer, 1927. 12, 13. American film studios, while Europe standardized on Tobey's Kleinfilm and Triovin systems. This new technology allowed for greater fluidity in film, giving rise to more complex and epic movies like King Kong, 1933. 14. As the television threat emerged in the 1940s and 1950s, the film industry needed to innovate to attract audiences. In terms of sound technology, this meant the development of surround sound and more sophisticated audio systems, such as Cinerama's 7-channel system. However, these advances required a large number of personnel to operate the equipment and maintain the sound experience in theaters. 14. In the early 1950s, black and white television started receiving criticism, with many believing that television failed to reach the lofty intellectual and cultural expectations that accompanied its introduction. 30. In an attempt to lure audiences back into theaters, bigger screens were installed, widescreen processes, polarized 3D projection, and stereophonic sound were introduced, and more films were made in color, which soon became the rule rather than the exception. Some important mainstream Hollywood films were still being made in black and white as late as the mid-1960s, but they marked the end of an era. Color television receivers had been available in the U.S. since the mid-1950s, but at first, they were very expensive and few broadcasts were in color. 31. During the 1960s, prices gradually came down, color broadcasts became common, and sales boomed. The overwhelming public verdict in favor of color was clear. After the final flurry of black and white films had been released in mid-decade, all Hollywood studio productions were filmed in color, with the usual exceptions made only at the insistence of star filmmakers such as Peter Bogdanovich, Martin Scorsese, and Alfred Hitchcock with his film Psycho, 1960. 32. Film theory seeks to develop concise and systematic concepts that apply to the study of film as art. The concept of film as an art form began in 1911 with Ricciardo Canetto's Manifest, the birth of the sixth art. The Moscow Film School, the oldest film school in the world, was founded in 1919 in order to teach about and research film theory. Formalist film theory, led by Rudolf Ahn, Bela Bolish, and Siegfried Kracauer, emphasized how film differed from reality and thus could be considered a valid fine art. Andrei Bazin reacted against this theory by arguing that film's artistic essence lay in its ability to mechanically reproduce reality, not in its differences from reality, and this gave rise to realist theory. More recent analysis, spurred by Jacques Lacan's psychoanalysis and Ferdinand de Saussures' semiotics among other things, has given rise to psychoanalytic film theory, structuralist film theory, feminist film theory, and others. On the other hand, critics from the analytical philosophy tradition, influenced by Wittgenstein, try to clarify misconceptions used in theoretical studies and produce analysis of a film's vocabulary and its link to a form of life. Citation needed. Language. Film is considered to have its own language. Citation needed. James Monaco wrote a classic text on film theory, titled How to Read a Film, that addresses this. 35